There is a pain, a silent, uncomfortable pain, that many people carry today. A pain they don't post about. A pain they don't testify about. A pain they don't even fully understand. It's the pain of walking into a place that preachers love, and walking out feeling completely invisible. Let me ask you something. Have you ever entered a church, sat through the entire service, heard the preaching, watched people laugh, greet each other, hug each other, and yet not a single person noticed you? Not one handshake. Not one "how are you?" Not one "what's your name?" You came in, and you left the exact same way, unseen. Now here is the part many people are afraid to say out loud. Some people are not leaving the church because they hate God. They are not leaving because they don't believe. They are leaving because they got tired of feeling like strangers in a place that calls itself family. And today, we are going to talk about one of the most painful, most ignored reasons why many people are quietly walking away from a church: abandonment, and the lack of brotherly love. Not the kind we preach, but the kind we practice. Section 1. The pain no one talks about. Let's be honest, very honest. There are people who came to church carrying heavy burdens. Some came broken. Some came lonely. Some came looking for hope, for connection, for someone, anyone, to notice them. They didn't come for perfection. They didn't come because they had everything together. They came because they believed this was the one place where they would finally belong. But what did they find? They found groups, already formed, circles, already closed, conversations, already occupied, and them. They stood there like visitors in a place that calls itself home. You see, the most painful thing is not being attacked. The most painful thing is being ignored. Because when someone ignores you, they send a silent message. You don't matter here. And here is where it gets even deeper. Some people gathered the courage to come once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times. And when no one reached out, when no one noticed, when no one cared, they quietly stopped coming. No announcement, no drama, no goodbye, just absence. And the painful truth? In many cases, no one noticed they were gone. Let that sink in. A whole human being, with a story, with struggles, with dreams, walked into a church, and walked out of it permanently, without leaving a trace in anyone's heart. Now tell me, how does someone come back to a place where their presence, or absence, makes no difference? That is not just discouraging. That is devastating. And yet, it is happening every single week, in many churches, to many people, maybe even to you, or worse, maybe through you. Section 2. The bitter truth. Why this is happening. Now let's go deeper, because if we are going to be honest about the pain, we must also be honest about the cause. Why is this happening? Why are people walking into churches and walking out feeling alone? Why is a place that preachers love sometimes struggling to show it? Here is the uncomfortable truth. It's not always intentional, but it is very real. Let's break it down. 1. People get comfortable and forget others. Many believers are not bad people. They are just comfortable. They come to church, find their friends, sit in their usual places, talk to the same people, laugh with the same circles, and go home. Week after week, month after month, year after year. And without realizing it, they stop seeing anyone outside their circle. New faces become invisible. Quiet people become unnoticed. Not because they are hated, but because they are simply not seen. Comfort has a dangerous side effect. It makes you blind to those who don't belong yet. 2. The rise of cliques in the house of God. Let's call it what it is. Some churches have become social clubs. Small groups form, based on familiarity, status, age, background. And once those circles close, they become very hard to enter. You can sit next to them for weeks and still feel like an outsider. You can greet them and still feel like you interrupted something. And the message this sends, without words, is this: you are not one of us. Now think about that. How can a place that calls itself the body feel so divided? 3. Spiritual pride, the silent divider. This one is subtle, but very dangerous. Sometimes, people who have been in church for long begin to feel elevated. Not openly, not loudly, but quietly. They begin to measure others. They are not as spiritual as me. They don't understand things like I do. They are still immature. And instead of lifting others, they distance themselves. Instead of drawing closer, they withdraw. And the result? People who need love the most receive it the least, because they are being silently judged instead of warmly embraced. 4. Everyone thinks someone else will care. This is one of the biggest reasons, and one of the most dangerous. A new person walks into church. You see them, but you assume maybe the ushers will talk to them. Maybe the pastor knows them. Maybe someone else has already welcomed them. So you do nothing, and someone else is thinking the exact same thing. And in the end, no one does anything, and that person leaves, untouched. This is how abandonment happens, not through hatred, but through assumption. 5. We have replaced relationship with routine. Let's be honest again. For many people, church has become a routine. Attend service, listen to the sermon, sing songs, go home, repeat. But somewhere along the way, we lost something important: connection. We know how to organize services, but we struggle to build relationships. We know how to preach love, but we forget how to practice it in small, simple ways. And without relationships, the church becomes just another place people attend, not a place where they belong. Now here is the truth we cannot run away from. The problem is not that people don't need love. The problem is that love is not being felt. And if love is not felt, people will not stay. Not because they are weak, not because they are rebellious, but because they are human. And every human being, no matter how strong, no matter how spiritual, needs to feel seen, needs to feel valued, needs to feel loved. So before we blame those who are leaving, maybe we need to ask a harder question. What kind of environment are we giving them to stay in? Section 3. What the church was meant to be, and what it is becoming. Now let's take this even deeper, because it's one thing to talk about what is happening, but it's another thing to ask, was it always meant to be this way? Let's go back, not to opinions, not to traditions, but to the original picture of the church. The church was never meant to be just a gathering. It was meant to be a family, not a place where people attend, but a place where people belong. In the early days of the church, something powerful was happening. People didn't just sit next to each other. They knew each other. They shared their lives. They shared their struggles. They shared their burdens. If one person was hurting, it mattered to everyone. If one person lacked, others stepped in. No one was too new. No one was too different. No one was too out of place. Because the mindset was simple. If you are here, you are one of us. Now compare that with what we often see today. You can attend for months and still feel like a visitor. You can sit in the same seat every Sunday and still not know a single person deeply. You can go through something heavy in your life and no one even realizes you're struggling. That is not just a small gap. That is a complete shift from what the church was meant to be. And let's talk about something very specific, something many people feel but rarely say. There are people in the church who don't fit into any group. They are not youth. They are not married. They are not in leadership. They are just there. They don't belong to singles groups that focus on young people. They don't belong to couples fellowships. They don't belong anywhere that clearly says, "This is your place." So they float from one service to another, from one seat to another, present, but not connected, seen, but not known. And over time, something dangerous begins to grow inside them. Maybe there is no place for me here. But here is the truth we cannot ignore. The church was never designed for categories. It was designed for connection. It was never meant to divide people into boxes, but to unite them as one body. Different ages, different backgrounds, different life stages, but one family. And here is where it becomes uncomfortable again, because if someone can sit in a church for months, or even years, and still feel like they don't belong, then something has gone wrong. Not necessarily in doctrine, not necessarily in preaching, but in something just as important, in practice. You see, it is possible to have powerful sermons, beautiful worship, well-organized services, and still lack the one thing that makes everything meaningful, genuine, visible, felt love. Because at the end of the day, people may be impressed by the message, but they are retained by the connection. They may admire the preaching, but they stay where they feel valued. So the question is not, are we teaching the right things? The deeper question is, are we living them in a way that people can feel? Because the church is not just a place where truth is spoken. It is supposed to be a place where love is experienced. And when that love is missing, even the strongest message can begin to feel empty. And that is how people slowly begin to disconnect. Not all at once, not dramatically, but quietly, gradually, until one day, they are no longer there. And again, no one notices. So now the question becomes even more personal. Have we built a church that people attend? Or a family that people belong to? Section 4. The emotional breaking point. Why people finally walk away. Now let's step into the shoes of someone who left. Not to judge them, not to blame them, but to understand them. Because people don't just wake up one day and decide, I'm done with church. No, it doesn't happen like that. It's a process. A slow, quiet, painful process. It often begins with hope. They come in expecting something different. They believe, maybe here, I will find connection. Maybe here, someone will care. Maybe here, I will finally belong. So they try. They greet people. They smile. They show up again, and again, and again. But then, small things begin to happen. No one really engages them. Conversations remain shallow. They are always the one initiating, never the one being approached. They start noticing something. People are friendly, but not welcoming. Polite, but not interested. Around, but not available. So they adjust. They stop trying as much. They sit quietly. They leave quickly. They become observers instead of participants. And inside, a quiet question begins to form. Do I really belong here? Then comes the deeper stage. Something happens in their life. A struggle, a loss, a heavy season. And this is where they need the church the most. Not just sermons, not just announcements, but people, real people, to notice, to ask, to care. But if no one sees them, if no one checks on them, if no one reaches out, something breaks. Not loudly, not visibly, but deeply. And here is the turning point. They begin to withdraw, not because they want to, but because they feel they have to. They tell themselves, maybe this place is not for me. Maybe I don't fit here. Maybe I should just stop going. And then one day, they don't show up. At first, it feels strange. Then it feels normal. Then it feels final. And the most painful part? Silence. No calls. No messages. No one asking, where have you been? And that silence confirms the fear they had all along. My presence didn't matter. So they move on. Not always away from God, but away from the environment that made them feel alone. And sometimes, they carry that wound for years. They become hesitant to return. Guarded. Distant. Because in their mind, if the place that preaches love didn't show it, where else will I find it? Now pause for a moment and think about this. How many people have walked away like this? Not because they were offended by a sermon, not because they rejected truth, but because they felt abandoned. And here is the hardest part of all. Some of them didn't need much. Just one person, one conversation, one moment of genuine care, one simple, "Hey, I see you." That's all it could have taken. but it never came. So before we say, people are leaving the church too easily, maybe we need to ask, did we give them a reason to stay? Section 5. Turning the mirror. Could you be part of the problem? Now, let's bring this closer home. Because up to this point, it's easy to listen and think, yes, this is happening. Yes, people are being neglected. Yes, the church needs to change. But now the question becomes personal. Where do you stand in all this? Before we go further, let's be fair and very clear. Not everyone who feels left out is completely innocent. There are people who come with walls already built. There are people who don't open up. There are people who resist connection. There are even some who come with wrong expectations or unclear intentions. Some want instant deep relationships without investing time. Some don't respond when others try to reach them. Some isolate themselves and then feel isolated. So yes, this side exists. Let's not pretend it doesn't. But here is the balance we must not lose. Even if someone is difficult to reach, it does not remove our responsibility to try. Because love is not tested when it is easy. Love is revealed when it requires effort. Now let's bring it back to you. When you go to church, do you only talk to people you already know? Do you notice new faces? Or do you walk past them? Do you ever sit next to someone who is alone? Or do you always return to your usual circle? Let's go deeper. When someone disappears from church, do you feel concerned? Or do you assume they are fine? They moved on. It's not my responsibility. Here is a hard truth. A healthy church is not built by a few caring people. It is built when everyone takes responsibility for someone. You don't need to know everything about a person. You don't need to have perfect words. Sometimes, all it takes is a greeting, a smile, a simple conversation, a follow-up message. Small things, but powerful things. Now think about this. If every member decided to intentionally care for just one person, just one, how many people would still feel invisible? And let's come back to that group we mentioned earlier. Those who don't seem to fit anywhere. Not youth. Not married. Not clearly placed. They come. They sit. They leave. Week after week. Who is responsible for them? Is it the pastor alone? Is it the leadership? Or is it all of us? Because if we keep waiting for a system to fix it, we may wait forever. But if individuals begin to act, things can change immediately. Here is the truth many people don't like. It is easier to complain about a cold church than to become a warm person within it. So instead of asking, why is the church like this? Maybe the better question is, what kind of member am I? Because the church is not a building. It is people. Which means, if people feel unloved in the church, it is not the building that failed them. It is us. And that is not meant to condemn you. It is meant to awaken you. Because the same way someone was hurt by absence, someone else can be healed by your presence. So the real question is not, is the church loving enough? The real question is, am I contributing to the love or to the silence? Section 6. The solution, restoring love and belonging in the church. Now that we have seen the problem, now that we have felt the pain, now that we have faced the truth, the question is, what do we do about it? Because if we end here, then this becomes just another message people listen to, feel emotional about, and then forget. But that's not what this is about. This is about change. Real change. Let's make it simple. Restoring love in the church does not start with big programs. It starts with small, intentional actions. 1. Start seeing people, not just attending services. The next time you walk into church, don't just look for your friends. Look for someone you don't know. Look for someone sitting alone. Look for someone who seems unsure, quiet, or out of place. Because many times, the people who say nothing are the ones who need the most. 2. Take the first step. Don't wait for perfect moments. You don't need a special introduction. You don't need to be assigned. Just go. Say, "Hello, I've seen you here before. What's your name?" That simple step can break weeks, even months, of silence. 3. Be consistent, not just one-time friendly. Anyone can greet someone once, but real love is shown in consistency. Greet them again next week. Sit with them again. Ask how they are doing again. That's how strangers become familiar. And familiar becomes family. 4. Create space for those who don't fit anywhere. Remember those people we talked about, the ones who are not in youth groups, not in couples groups, not clearly placed. They are often the most overlooked. So be intentional. Invite them into your conversations. Sit with them. Include them. Because belonging is not created by categories. It is created by people. 5. Follow up. Don't let silence win. If you notice someone who hasn't been around, don't assume. Reach out. A simple message. "Hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Are you okay?" That one message can mean more than you realize, because it says, "You were noticed. You matter." Now let's be honest again. None of this is difficult. It doesn't require money. It doesn't require a title. It doesn't require permission. It only requires one thing: intentional love. And here is the truth we must carry from today. The church will not become warmer by accident. It will become warmer when people decide to be warmer. So don't wait for the church to change. Be part of the change. Don't wait for a program. Become the person. Because at the end of the day, someone's decision to stay or to leave may not depend on the sermon they hear. It may depend on the person they meet. So let me leave you with this. There are people who will walk into your church this week, carrying silent battles, hidden pain, unspoken loneliness, and they may not say a word about it, but they will be watching to see if anyone notices, watching to see if anyone cares, watching to see if this place is truly different. And without realizing it, you might be the answer to that question, or the confirmation of their fear. So when you walk into church next time, don't just attend. See someone, reach someone, be there for someone, because in the end, people may forget the sermon, but they will never forget how they were treated. And maybe, just maybe, one small act of love can be the reason someone stays.
If that message was helpful, don't forget to like, leave your comment, and subscribe for more.